rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the founding of Endtime Ministries. We knew that all of you out there would like to hear the story. We're calling it The Miracle Called End Time. Our first edition of The Miracle Called End Time covered from End Time's beginning to the fall of the Berlin Wall. That's where we will pick it up today. Joining me again today for this special program is my son-in-law, David Robbins, and his wife and my daughter, Jana Robbins, as well as my one and only wife, Judy. We call it The Miracle Called End Time because we have, in fact, seen miracle after miracle. I promise you, if we had not seen many miracles, End Time Ministries would not exist today. We've reached places where we didn't know what to do and how to proceed, and sometimes having no finances. And God has done just incredible miracles. And that's the reason we felt like we had to call this The Miracle Called End Time. So yesterday we led up to the fall of the Berlin Wall, and that's where we're going to pick it up here today.
Yeah, so in your last program, we ended off with the book you published in 1986, A Message for the President, which is a very unique title. Why did you call it A Message for the President?
Well, there was a reason behind it. I was reading an article about President Ronald Reagan, who was in office at the time, and he stated he had been studying the prophecies of the Bible and thought we might be the generation that would see the Battle of Armageddon. Well, obviously I was interested. So I thought, if I would write this book and put in it things that I think a president of the mightiest nation on earth, things that he should know in order to govern in harmony with God's will, that would be really something important. And I thought, if I write this to President Reagan and all succeeding presidents as far as that goes, the people of the world would probably like to eavesdrop. And so we just decided that we would call the book A Message for the President. So that's what we did. And I tried to put in there where the United States is in the Bible. It was the first time we'd actually published that in book form. Other modern nations, also the coming one world government, and many other things that I felt like President Reagan needed to know.
Well, one of the neat things that I've heard so many times over the years, and one of the unique things about the book that really adds validity to the message that we teach here, was you published that the Berlin Wall was going to be torn down in 1986. And then what happens in 1989, but the Berlin Wall comes down?
Believe me, Dave, I was the happiest person on the planet
I'll bet.
the day that wall fell, because I think there were people waiting in the wings just itching to label me a false prophet.
Right.
Because I've been teaching this since 1968. I think we talked about that in our last session. We had the magazine from Life magazine, March 29th of 1968, in which it states there that the division of Germany was like a rusty knife wound that must someday be healed. Well, I compared that to Revelation 13, verse 1 through 3, and that's when I saw, I believed, absolute proof that was going to be the fall of the Berlin Wall. Well, it also states in the Bible that when the deadly wound was healed, a lot of people have thought the Antichrist is going to be killed and raised from the dead.
Exactly.
But the passage doesn't say that. It says there's a beast with 7 heads, and one of the 7 heads was wounded unto death. Until you can understand what the 7 heads are, you can't possibly understand the scripture. And we did explain all that in the book, A Message for the President. So anyway, we published that in 86. And then President Ronald Reagan challenged Mikhail Gorbachev, and everybody's heard the statement,
right.
Mr. Gorbachev, if you believe in liberty like you say you do, tear down this wall.
Right.
Well, Gorbachev was not a man to back away from a challenge. And I thought, uh-oh. And I'd already written this, and it already was published, and a lot of people has almost made fun of me, frankly. But when I heard him say that, I thought, uh-oh, here it comes. Mm-hmm. Well, then he left office, and President Herbert Walker Bush took office, and the progress continued toward the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I'll never, never forget November the 9th of 1989, I'm listening to the radio when the announcement comes on. The Berlin Wall has fallen. They've opened the gates, and they're letting the people come from East Berlin to West Berlin. Now, you got to realize there was around 2,000 people died trying to get across that wall.
Right.
I mean, there was one person that somehow connected a cable and rigged a device, and he actually got on there and rode a cable down and got across the wall. Mm-hmm. Others didn't make it, though. Right. There were people, they shot them, and they had glass embedded in the top of the Berlin Wall, so if you tried to get over it would cut your arms. There were guard dogs. It was mined. Mm-hmm. It was so hated. It was just considered a scar on the face of humanity.
Right.
And so everybody just hated the Berlin Wall and wanted it someday to come down. But the Soviet Union was keeping all these people in prison. They couldn't get out. They didn't want them to get out. But when that wall came down, the West Germans met the East Germans coming across and handed them, if I remember right, about $600. They were standing there handing out $600 per car, because everybody's honking their horn, and there were people dancing up on the wall, and there were other people with chisels and hammers. I mean, they had all this video footage. I suppose everyone has seen some of it, but one person even said it was like a Pentecostal experience the night the wall came down. So it was enthralling. Well, that wasn't all that happened, though.
Right.
Because when that wall came down, my phone started ringing. Judy was there, and I mean all day long. I think I talked on the phone 7 or 8 hours straight that day. Mm-hmm. I felt like I had cauliflower ear when I got done. Oh. But everybody wanted to know, how did you know this? Where is this in the Bible? What does it mean? What's going to happen next? Of course, that's the beauty of Bible prophecy. And I told them what's going to happen next. Because the prophecy says that when that wall comes down and is healed, the whole world will wander after the one world government beast. Yep. And, of course, I'm following the events just real close. And within 20 days of the fall of the Berlin Wall, Mikhail Gorbachev, Pope John Paul II, and George Herbert Walker Bush, who was president at the time, they all went to Malta, and they had a meeting there. Now, these were considered the top 3 leaders of the world. Right. Pope John Paul II, the leader of Catholicism, Mikhail Gorbachev, the leader of communism, and George Herbert Walker Bush, the leader of democracy in the free world. So they all met together, and they came out of those meetings announcing the birth of the New World Order. Now, I put it in my book. I actually used the term New World Order right here in this book that was published. But to happen within 20 days of the fall of the Berlin Wall, I'm the one that wrote it, and it almost shocked me, to tell you the truth. But it was an amazing time, and I realized right then that I had to really up my game. Right. And frankly, that's what motivated us to start Endtime Magazine.
Exactly.
And the crazy thing is, Judy and I, along with our family, we dove in to do things we didn't know how to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had never started them. I didn't know the difference between a web press and a sheet-fed press, let alone all these fancy presses they have today. And so I think, okay, I've got to start a magazine, because I felt like we had entered the end time, 1989. Right. We had crossed a marker in Bible prophecy. So I started going from printing house to printing house all over Richmond, Indiana, trying to figure out, how do you print a magazine? And I was taking tours, and some of them were kind enough to help me. I went in them nosing around, and so they were happy to show me their trade and how it all worked. And I'm reading all the magazines. I bought some magazine on how to produce this. And I mean, I know nothing. And yet I feel like I got an assignment from God, because I always knew that we needed a magazine that could keep people updated on a current basis. Mm-hmm. as to how the prophecies were coming together. Well, I went out and started taking up donations for Endtime Magazine. Well, actually, I got to tell you this, because this is one of the miracles. I was invited to speak before one of the committees of the denomination I belong to. Their whole goal was revival. And so this magazine, I wanted to be designed not for saved people, but for unsaved people. I wanted a magazine designed to help people establish faith and to be saved. So I went before this committee and I told them what my dream was, and they got excited and they said, we'll help you. There was about 16 of them in the room, and they all pastored significantly large churches. They said, how much money do you need to get started? And I just threw them a figure, $16,000.
Yeah.
Now, it's laughable now, but anyway, again, I was just functioning by faith, the best of my ability. And they said, tell you what, when you get the first edition ready to go to press, you call us. Matter of fact, the chairman of the committee, they said, you let him know and he'll send letters to all of us and we'll send the money. And I think they had committed to $1,000 apiece. So I thought $16,000, I can get this thing rolling, we'll get some subscribers. Well, I got the first magazine done. And by the way, the first magazine, I don't know, Dave, you might be able to, no, actually, the
first
plaque,
one,
yeah. Hold it straight up and so that people can see it. Yeah, just like that. Because I put the picture of Mikhail Gorbachev on there with a sword through the throat of the Red Dragon, and the Red Dragon had just bust through the hole in the Berlin Wall. And so it was really depicting, and I wrote the article about, has Gorbachev really killed socialism or communism? Well, it proved to be prophetic,
Right.
because I didn't think he had. Because here he is, a dyed-in-the-wall communist, and as the wall's coming down, he's clapping. I thought,
Doesn't make sense.
what's the matter with this picture? And then within 9 years of the fall of the Berlin Wall, 13 of the 15 West European nations had elected of their own free will a socialist government. I said, wait a minute. I mean, the headlines, Newsweek screamed, socialism is dead, because supposedly capitalism had won the Cold War. The Cold War was over. Cold War had raged for 40 years. Now it's over, and socialism has been discredited. Everybody's trying to escape from the Iron Curtain. And they said socialism is dead. And all the time I published this magazine in 91, has Gorbachev really killed communism? And then 9 years after the wall fell, 13 of the 15 nations in Western Europe voted in a socialist government. I thought, what in the world? Well, Rupert Murdoch said it this way. He said, if socialism is dead, why won't it lay down? And of course, that said it very, very succinctly. Well,
You didn't finish your miracle.
so what happened was, my wife she's always there to help me out, because like she says, I didn't finish the miracle. What happened was, we got the magazine, the first one, ready to go to press. And so I told the chairman, I need the money. And so he sent the letters. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. It's one thing for people to be enthused and say, yeah, I'll give when you're in a meeting. It's another thing after the vision gets a little bit cold. So anyway, 1 year.
Right.
I'd gotten zero. So my wife, Judy, was saying, babe, be careful. You're getting ready to launch something here. This could bankrupt us. I mean, I'd done a few risky things before. I married her for one. Anyway.
That's a good one.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but when I asked her dad to marry me, for her to marry me, he chuckled. He said, all I can say is you got a lot of nerve. I should have known right then some of the things I was in for, but anyway, wonderful family, by the way. And I've never been sorry one day, actually. That's pretty good, 51 years. So what happened was, Judy was saying to me, now, babe, you're getting ready to take these risks, and you could bankrupt us.
Right.
So I'm in turmoil. I felt the Lord draw me to do it, but she was right. I had no money. And so I'll never forget the day I walked into my office was right off the church. So I walked into the church. There was no one there but me. And I began to pray. I said, oh God, I thought sure you told me you want me to do this, but you haven't provided the money.
Right.
And I guess I'm just going to shoot the project because I don't have any money. And you know that Judy's concerned about it, and she's trying to use some common sense. And I felt the Lord speak to me that day. I'll never forget it. He said to my heart, I've prepared you all your life to do this. Would you like to stand before me on the judgment and say, I was afraid? God's got a way of putting things. And I said, okay, God, if you're going to put it that way, no, I don't want to do that.
No.
So I calculated that I could go in debt $10,000, and if it didn't work, we could cut our losses. We had good credit, and Judy and I would just pay out. And $10,000 back in those days, we're talking about close to 30 years ago, was a lot of money. And so we made a commitment. I walked out of the prayer meeting, I walked into our staff, and I said, we're going. We're starting the magazine. And they were all, of course, they were a hip hooray because they didn't have to sign any notes or pay any bills. Or they were going to have to work hard. But anyway, but here's what was so amazing.
Yep.
After 1 year receiving zero money, I went to the mailbox an hour later, and there was an envelope from a friend of mine, J.T. Pugh.
Yep.
And he said, here's the $1,000 to help with the magazine. Well, I got maybe $300 or $400 in addition to that, but that's about all we got from that original promise. But really, it was like God said, I know where you are, and I know exactly what you've been praying about today, and here's what I can do. But I don't want you calculating. I want you walking by faith and trusting me.
Yep.
Well, it was so crazy because the plan I came up with was, when I look back, it was a terrible plan. I decided, okay, we're going to print 25,000 copies. I had traveled and taken up about 600 subscribers. So I'm going to print 25,000 magazines of that magazine. And my plan was to put a letter inside each magazine. We actually, this was hilarious, but we would stack up the letters and we would take a big glue stick and run down the side, and then we just stuffed the letters, and they stuck. And all it said was, here's your first copy of Endtime Magazine. If you like it, send your subscription price. I think back then it was $14.95. Send your subscription price, and we'll send you another 11 issues. So we stayed up late at night running glue sticks and throwing them in magazines and stuffing 25,000 volunteers from my church, the church we were pastoring.
All those pizza parties we had back then.
Oh, we fed people really well. Work all night and we'll give you a piece of pizza. Anyway, that's what we...
We'll work for food.
Yeah.
So, but the people were wonderful. The people that helped us, many of them have passed on to be with the Lord now, but still very fond memories. So anyway, we sent out the first edition of Endtime Magazine. Mm-hmm. And we got enough subscribers to pay the printing bill. I mean, I was like a dog chasing his tail. Mm-hmm. You know, put a magazine together, have it printed, get the subscribers in, take the money, go pay the printer. Now, print number 2. Yeah. And well, we did that. And believe it or not, it took off.
Yep.
I think it took us 3 or 4 years, but we were up to 25,000 subscribers, just zoom, like that. And I thought, oh my goodness, look what's happening. Well, anyway, that's the story of Endtime Magazine. Yeah. And God provided all along the way. We had so much to learn, but God helped us all the way. It was an amazing experience that we had.
Yeah, now 25 years later, we're actually celebrating the 25th anniversary of that Endtime Magazine, and it's the widest distributed prophecy magazine in the world.
Yeah, and this is our 30th anniversary here at Endtime, but like you mentioned, it's the 25th anniversary of the nonstop publication of Endtime Magazine.
Exactly.
And what a tremendous, and those deadlines roll around every 2 months, Dave, you know, because you're the editor, I'm the editor-in-chief, and we've got to produce those articles, and sometimes it's staying up half the night to get the thing done, but still, it's been worth it.
It has, it definitely has. So moving on down the timeline, because we could sit here and talk forever about each of these projects because they're a miracle. And when you experience something like that, it's so dramatic. And I wasn't here at that time, but I remember we got married in '88. And so I remember some of this stuff going on. And I thought, man, I'm glad I'm not involved in that, because you're taking huge leaps of faith. A lot of people simply can't do that. But of course, that's what this thing's been built upon, and God has came through every time. So it's just such an awesome story. But so that we can get it done here, let's move along in our timeline. And the next thing you came to, once we moved on past the magazine, you produced one of the things that's close to my heart, because I teach Bible studies and stuff a lot, most of us do. And it's the teaching series that you came up with so that everybody could take these and go out and teach their own Bible study. So tell us a little bit about that, the Understanding the End Time teaching series you came up with.
Just before we go there, Dave, I want to remind everybody that this is the 30th anniversary of the miracle called End Time. And what we would like to ask you to do, if you're not yet a partner with Endtime Ministries, because we got more work to do than we've done already, if you're not yet a partner, if you will become a partner for $30 a month, now that's not a lot of money. It's easy to go out to eat and leave $30 or more, needless to say. But if you would become a $30 a month partner, we have a documentary telling the story of what Dave is just now asked us to talk about, and that's the putting together of a series that has gone around the world and impacted hundreds of thousands of lives. It's called Understanding the End Time. This is a 30-minute documentary. I think you'll really enjoy seeing what's on here. Our staff did a wonderful job putting this together. So if you become a partner for $30 a month, you say, well, what if I say I'll give $30 and then something happens and I can't do it? Does that mean I'm going to hell? Of course not. You're just simply saying, if God will bless me where I can, I want to stand with you as a partner of Endtime Ministries, because let me tell you, we got a world to reach and we got to get it done fast. Now, if you're already a partner and you would like to add $30 a month to the amount you normally contribute, then we will send you this as well. So it's just a wonderful little gift. I think it will mean something to you, celebrating our 30th anniversary of miracles here at Endtime Ministries. Okay, now, take me back to where I need to be, Dave, because I just had to talk about that for a moment.
The production of the Understanding the End Time teaching series, it's been all around the world, like you said.
The level one.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, in my particular movement I'm a part of, one of the big ways to share the gospel was to go into the home and teach a Bible study. And we had a Bible study that went through the Bible, and it was effective and good. However, there was nothing, zero. There was nothing that out there could actually take a person through the prophecies of the Bible. So we put together a 10-lesson series, and we called it Understanding the End Time. We named it Understanding the End Time from the scripture in Daniel chapter 11, verse 32 and 33. It says there that the Antichrist, when he comes, will corrupt many people by flatteries. But then it says, but the people that do know their God. Now this is talking about the end times that we're in right now. The people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And then it says this, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Now, here's the DVD set. This is a later production, but it's Understanding the End Time. We named it from verse number 33. They that understand among the end time shall instruct many. So we published this chart, and we published a manual to go with the chart. And people around the country begin to buy them because the graphics are just stunning. And God helped us in so many ways. And speaking of miracles, I think we got to talk about this one, Jana, because I know you were there when it happened.
Yes.
We had this all designed, but we had no money. How is it we always have no money? I guess because we spend it all. But
well, you need to go back to how we found the gentleman that helped us design it first, because when you told me, well, I found this computer over about an hour away I'm going to go check it out. So we drove an hour away to check out this computer, and we were there 6 hours later because the gentleman that was selling the computer didn't want to talk about computers. He wanted to talk about Bible prophecy. So, but it was an awesome experience because God supernaturally dropped a man who was way beyond his years. Back in the early 90s, the design world wasn't near as as advanced as it is today. But John Linker was very advanced in that particular field. And so God handpicked this man to help us to create some images that were just wowing, that created the 15 by 20 flip chart that we created.
Yeah, well, the reason we went to look for a computer is because I'd been studying how do you do all these graphics to make them look like, what kind of computer do we need? Well, he was advertising this computer for sale, and we were in Richmond. We drove over to Indianapolis, and we found him there. And he looked at us when we asked about the computer. He said, "What do you want to use it for?" And I told him about Bible prophecy, and like you say, immediately he didn't even talk about his computer.
No.
And then he looked at me and he said, "I can do this for you."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I didn't know how to do it. So it's like God dropped the talent right in my lap,
Yes.
right in our lap, that helped us to do this. Right. And he's the one that did this marvelous art for our prophecy chart. By the way, these are not available, so don't try to order them. We now have put everything in our video series. Yep. Matter of fact, we've now expanded it from 10 lessons to 14 because we understand more now than we did then.
Right.
But this chart has just gone all over the world. But now we got to talk about how we got it printed. Because once we got this all put together, I went to friends of mine, and I knew they had printed a chart something like this, not nearly as, mainly two color and sort of plain Jane, but I was groping. I was all alone. I'm operating solo out here, and I didn't know how to get this done. Wow. Can you believe time has come and gone? We're going to pick it up here in our next edition of the miracle called End Time. One more time, if you want to be a partner with us, the number to call, 800 End Time. That's 800-363-8463. God bless you. See you later.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like, how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
Who would have thought it, that the Berlin Wall is right there in the prophecies of the Bible? I'm holding here a chunk of the Berlin Wall. A friend of mine was in Berlin the night that the wall fell, November 9, 1989. He cut a piece of the wall for himself, twice this large. He was kind enough to cut it in half. He had read my book, A Message for the President, in which I had stated 3 years before this that the Berlin Wall would come down, the two Germanys would be reunited, and that would be the event that would mark the beginning of the one world governmental system called the New World Order.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME to order The Berlin Wall in Bible Prophecy.
If your radio station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the Watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the Archives button.
It's the 30th anniversary of the establishment of Endtime Ministries. Wow, what a trip it has been. Consequently, we are devoting these programs to the miracle called End Time. Mm-hmm. Now, I've asked my son-in-law, Dave Robbins, to join us. Jana's here with us, his wife, my daughter, and also, of course, my faithful companion over the last many years, Judy. And she has been very instrumental in all this. Anytime, sometimes she would just sit and cheer me on until I got myself in a tight spot. That's when she's at her best. She kicks in like a little dynamo, and here she goes. Anyway, I've asked them to sit in with me because I want them to be able to add anything they want to add. Now, we're going to be taking your calls in this half of the program. If you'd like to get in on this, especially if you would like to comment about maybe what Endtime Ministries has meant to you over the last 30 years or 10 years or 15 years or 2 years. If you'd like to call us, the number to call is 1-800-END-TIME to reach our operators. But if you want to be on the air with us, and we hope you will be, that number is 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Before we start coming to your calls, I want to tell you that we will be in Newport News, Virginia, this coming Saturday and Sunday. It will be Saturday evening at 6 p.m., Sunday morning at 11:15, and Sunday evening at 6:30. Each session will be different. On Saturday evening, October the 15th at Newport News, I'll be speaking on From Here to Armageddon. It's a brand new series, 8 lessons. I won't be teaching all 8 lessons. I'll just be giving the overview of it. But it's so exciting because in this first lesson, there's a beautiful timeline that will tell you the major prophetic fulfillments that you're going to witness between now and the Battle of Armageddon. We especially concentrate on the final 7 years, and we're right before the beginning of the final 7 years. There's a prophecy that says that. We explained the whole thing on our series From Here to Armageddon. Now, let's just say that you're not near Newport News, but you would like to have the series. Call our operators, 800-END-TIME, and this is now available to you, our brand new series, From Here to Armageddon. We are so excited about it, and it is proving to be very, very popular, so you can do that. Now, we've got some other things that we're going to be mentioning later in the program, but I want to make sure you understand. Newport News, Saturday evening, 6 o'clock, From Here to Armageddon, and then Sunday morning, they've asked me to preach a sermon in their church, and some of you have asked and said, oh, we'd like to hear you just cut loose and preach, because I do it once in a while here on the air. So that'll be on Sunday morning at 11:15, and then Sunday evening, we're going to be talking about the breaking prophetic fulfillments that are happening right now. Consequently, I will be teaching on that, and then we'll do that for about 30 minutes, and then your questions that we will be taking from the floor in Newport News. Now, let me give you the address. It's the Peninsula Pentecostals, 404 Sharon Drive, Newport News. One more time. The Peninsula Pentecostals, 404 Sharon Drive, Newport News. Saturday evening, 6, Sunday morning, 11:15, Sunday evening, 6:30. Hope you will plan to be with us. Now, we're going to continue tomorrow the miracle called End Time, so don't miss it at all. But for right now, though, I've got a couple of things I've got to refer to you, and then we're going to start right in on your calls. However, I have an article in front of me. Turkish army says Islamic State put up stiff resistance in Syria. Supported by Turkish tanks and airstrikes, the rebels have been pushing toward Islamic State's stronghold of Dabiq. The Battle of Dabiq is on. Now, that's all I'm going to tell you today, because we're going to get right to your calls. Nevertheless, Dabiq is the place where Islam believes the final battle, that's their Battle of Armageddon, that the final battle will be fought, and that's where the Mahdi's going to show up. Well, guess what? They are fighting that battle right now. Russia's participating, America's participating, Germany's participating, Turkey's participating, the rebels are participating, Syria's participating. A lot of nations are converging right now. So what's going to happen? Well, that's for another day. Nevertheless, we want to get to the phones right now, and a good friend of ours, Alan, is calling from New Zealand. Alan, nice to have you on the program.
And nice to be able to be part of your program today. And hello to Judy, Dave, and Jenna, who I've all spoken to and met over the years.
Hello, Alan.
Hey.
Jenna's helped me many times with getting magazines, and even over the 20 years that I've been involved with End Time, we've given out thousands of magazines here in New Zealand. I don't know where they've all gone, but people have taken them.
And we have quite a number of followers from New Zealand, and a lot of that's to your credit, we believe, Alan.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, Irvin, it was 1996 when a missionary couple, Roscoe and Mary C. from Abilene, Texas, came to New Zealand. and they had a brand new set of videos, 10 lessons of the understanding the end time. And they said they were going to show prophecy in the church, a little church that we were involved with back then with them. And we did that, and that just created such a spark in me. The most interesting thing, Irvin, is when Mary had a magazine, the first magazine was about picking a United Nations leader back in 1996. That magazine, I still have that to this day. She gave that to me. After they left New Zealand, they came back about a year later, and she asked me what I was doing with the end time. By then, I'd got my own lessons, was getting the magazine and things, and she told me personally that back in 1996, God told her to give me that magazine because that would be my ministry, and it was just really amazing to see that 20 years on, I'm still doing this.
Well, we sure appreciate all that you do there, Alan, and we believe that only eternity will tell the total result. But it's so amazing that here we produced these DVDs here in America, and lo and behold, in New Zealand they show up, and that struck a spark in you. And you know what? When you really grasp the importance of the prophecies, you can't get away from it. It's addicting, really, when you realize that God foretold things 2,000, 2,500 years ago that are coming to pass right now. You'll just never be the same once you really see it.
Oh, that's true. It's so clear. Once you get an understanding of it, it opens things that you can, like as you say, every day you can look in the news, you see articles. There's just an understanding that comes from it. So we are the generation that will understand the end time. So that's all I wanted to say, Irvin, is basically we try and teach it everywhere we can. I've taught it up and down in different places, and churches have been open. So anyone that is in New Zealand that's looking for lessons, seminars, anything that we do with the end time, Irvin, they just need to contact you guys, and you guys can contact me.
Okay, sure to appreciate it, Alan. Hope all the best for you there.
Congratulations on 30 years.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and what we're doing today, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there and you've been blessed in one way or another, you've been affected by Endtime Ministry, we would love to hear from you. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the establishment of Endtime Ministries. It happened in 1986, and here we are, 2016. We're going to get right back to the phones. The number to call, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. And we're going to go now to Joseph. Joseph is calling from Florida. Hello, Joseph.
Hello. I want to thank you once again for your ministry. As I explained when I called, I was a practicing homosexual, and when I heard your show, it opened the path to salvation, and I've repented of my sin, and I'm on my way to heaven, thanks to Endtime Ministry and the Lord. My question today is for Mrs. Baxter. Ma'am, it's a privilege to address you. I'd like to know, what was it like when the Lord revealed to you that He had already sped up time? I mean, that must have been so awesome. Can you enlighten us on that a little, ma'am?
Okay.
Well, it was very exciting. I had listened to Irvin teach on the 7 trumpets, and whenever he got to the 4th one, he jumped over it because he didn't know what to say about it. So one day I was driving down the interstate, and I just started talking to the Lord out loud. I said, God, how are you going to shorten the days? I know you're not going to change the time you're coming because that's already been determined. And He spoke in my mind, and it was a male voice. It never happened to me before in my life. And He said, I already have. I was so shocked. I said, well, how, Lord? He said, I've speeded everything up, and nobody realizes it. So, of course, I came home and excitedly told Irvin all about it, and that's basically it.
Well, to fill in a couple of blanks, Joseph, to fill in a couple of blanks for all of our listeners, the 4th trumpet states that the sun will be shortened for 1/3 part of will not shine for 1/3 part of the day, and the moon will not shine for 1/3 part of the night. And Jesus also prophesied about when He said, except those days be shortened, there would be no flesh saved. So I had understood the 1st trumpet, 2nd trumpet, 3rd trumpet, 5th trumpet, but I was stuck on the 4th one. I couldn't get it. And Judy wants me to understand everything. She thinks I should. And so consequently, the result was she was praying about it. And frankly, she came home that day She'd been out. I didn't even know where she'd been. She'd been out running around like she always does. She's a very active type person. And she looked at me and she said, "The Lord spoke to me today." And I thought, uh-oh, this is a setup as sure as the world, because I thought sure she was going to say, "The Lord told me to buy a new dress." I mean, what else would you expect a woman to say, you know? And so she then, she had never said that to me before in all of our years of marriage. And so I sobered up, I got serious. I said, "What happened?" And then she told me what she just told you. And it's proven to be a real revelation. I'm going to add something to what she said, because the fourth trumpet is between the third trumpet, which happened in 1986 with the Chernobyl nuclear explosion, May the 26th of 1986, and then the fifth trumpet, which was the Gulf War against Saddam Hussein, that happened in 1991. So I said, wait a minute, the fourth trumpet has to be between 1986 and 1991. What in the world happened? So I mulled this over for years. What could it be? And one day, and not too long ago actually, within the last year or two, I was thinking again about the Berlin Wall and the fall of the Berlin Wall and what a pivotal point it's been, and that marked the beginning of the New World Order. Tony Blair actually said that. He has started a Tony Blair Foundation, and they have a course at Yale University called Faith and Globalization, and he teaches the course. And I was listening to one of his lectures, and he said that globalization started with the fall of the Berlin Wall. Well, that's when we moved into the end time, which is what I said in my book, A Message for the President. And frankly, I believe now that the fourth trumpet sounded on November the 9th of 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall. And that is another major milestone, and you can decide out there what you think about that. But anyway, okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Appreciate the phone call. No, we don't have time. We're right up against a break, but we're going to get to you. If you're holding there, please stay right there. We do want to hear from you. Let me mention the latest edition of End Time Magazine, just out. And you can see it's a really ugly picture on the front. It's a big ape. Across his face is globalism, the 800-pound gorilla in the living room. You gotta read this article. Now, I apologize, I wrote the article, but I read it the other day and I realized before every person votes on November the 8th, you gotta read this article. So if you're not a subscriber to End Time Magazine, pick up the phone right now. Don't wait another moment. Call us, 800 End Time, subscribe to End Time Magazine. Our operators will tell you how to do it. And stay with us because we'll be right back.
Take your understanding of the end time to a new level with our Outlines and Quizzes workbook. This workbook accompanies our Understanding the End Time 14 lesson series. As you watch each lesson, follow along with the outlines, then take a quiz and check your answers at the end. These are all contained in one convenient workbook so you can study as well as teach prophecy wherever you go. Use it as a study guide to cement main points and scriptures that Irvin teaches in each lesson. It's also a great tool if you host an End Time Bible study. Help your group solidify what they're learning by getting a copy for each person to follow along with the video and then to take home and study on their own. Get the workbook by calling 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com and be ready to instruct many as the scripture says.
In case you are just joining us, we are right now going through an appreciation for what God's done over the last 30 years. We're talking about 30 years of miracles here at Endtime Ministries, and it has been a miracle what God has done. So we're just taking time to pause and to commemorate. We'll be doing it again tomorrow, so you don't want to miss out. Right now, though, we're taking comments from you, and we want to go to Virginia. Tamla is calling from Virginia. Hello, Tamla. Thanks for your call.
Oh, hello, Brother Baxter and Sister Baxter and Baxter family. I thank you for taking my call. I was listening to the program yesterday, And then I thought I should call today when you announced you were going to continue sharing the goodness of the Lord and what he's done these 30 years. And I was first introduced to Endtime Ministries through the initial Bible study that you published back in 1995 or 1996. I was a youth in the youth group at church, and we had a very zealous youth leader who wanted us to be biblically literate and study the prophecies of the Bible. And so we would, on weeknights, go through your Understanding the End Time Bible Study then at that time. And the Lord has made the way for me to be able to follow through with all of the ways that he's using you in the years since then. And I just want to thank God for all of you, and especially because I remember as a child, I grew up in church, and I think one of the biggest fears I had as a little girl was the coming of the Lord and all of the signs of the end time. And in fact, it's what motivated me to be saved. And I thank God for saving me. But, you know, as I grew in the Lord, it was always my biggest fear. But I thank God because he has used you in such a way that has helped to give an understanding that has calmed those fears that I remember that I had as a child. And I just, of all that I could say in appreciation for you all, I just want to thank God for you and for your being so willing to let him use you and the faith that it has taken for you all to do what you have done. I love you all, and I pray for you always, and I just want to call and say thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Tamla, and we appreciate you and everybody else that's out there that's been faithful through the years. So thank you very much. We want to get right to our next caller. Mike is calling from Michigan. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Brother Baxter. I was one of your first subscribers back in 1990. I know the paper didn't come out till 91, but I was in a meeting at a singles conference in Indianapolis, and I didn't know much about it, but I subscribed, and I didn't get my first copy for quite a while, but it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, well, you know, we took up all those subscriptions, and then the donors that were supposed to support the production of End Time Magazine, somehow they had other priorities at the time or whatever. Maybe they didn't have the money. But anyway, it took us a while to get off the ground. But God helped us, and he's been helping us now for 25 years. So you were one of the very first then. You were one of the subscribers before there was an End Time Magazine.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's awesome. Hey, well,
also, I'd like to comment. I was a truth seeker. I didn't know anything about religion. I was diligently seeking the truth. I was kind of a hippie coming out of the 70s. And I mean, I was praying and fasting. I was so confused. I didn't know which one was right. So I was really getting down to business, and God led me to the truth. And it wasn't long after that God led me to you. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that if a person is diligently seeking truth, that sometimes they want to research everything else themselves. You hear that a lot. But a lot of times God will lead you to a person that's already researched it out and that is solid in the truth. And I know that's why that I came to know your ministry, is because I was diligently seeking the truth and more about the Bible. And I'm just so thankful for that.
That's great.
Well, that's what the Bible says. Seek and you shall find. And God he'll never fail that promise. He'll always do what he promised. But you got to keep seeking sincerely, and you got to accept the truth when you find it, no matter whether it contradicts your own particular belief system or not. You just have to be open to the truth. Right back to the phones now. Brian is calling from Louisiana. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Mr. Reverend. How you doing?
Oh, doing wonderful. Thank you for calling.
I want to congratulate you on your 30 years of ministry. And I have been a faithful listener of yours for quite some time, and I really do appreciate everything that you are doing. And you do have a wonderful family watching you right now.
You know, our family has known nothing but the work of God since they were born. But God has given us a wonderful family, and I am so blessed, and Judy is so blessed, because our family has bought into this ministry, and I think God has put a call on them. It's not just that we are called. I believe that God has put a call upon them as well. And we have 3 beautiful girls along with their husbands, and they're all full-time working for God, have been for many years. And so you're right, we are incredibly blessed.
Yes, well, I really do love your ministry, your ministries. I've been listening to you since, say, last November, when I went to a Bible study, and they mentioned to me your program, and I've been listening to it ever since.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. We sure appreciate the phone call. Keep listening.
Thank you.
All right, and now then we're going. Do we have time? Yes, we do. Let's go to Ben from right here in Texas. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Irvin. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for calling.
All right. Well, thank y'all. I just kind of want to call and touch up on what everyone else is saying and how much of a blessing y'all's ministry has been. I went to just quick short story. I was 17 and living in a homeless shelter, and wasn't really seeking the Lord, but always was brought up in a somewhat Christian home, so I always knew that God existed, but didn't know too much about Him. And just ironically, just by divine appointment, your videos on lesson 1 of Understanding the End Time I came across through a friend of mine, and the Lord has blessed me with the knowledge of prophecy, but not only that, just the character of who He is, and really knowing, having that personal relationship with God. Before that, I never even knew you could have one. And when I was, I went to Israel with you that next year, and that was the first time I was ever filled with the Holy Spirit. And it's y'all just been such a blessing to me and my family and my future generation family. So y'all have helped me break some generational curses through y'all's ministry. So thank y'all very much.
That's a great testimony, Ben. And I'd like to say to everybody out there, take advantage of Ben's testimony. A lot of people think that because you've had problems throughout the generations in your family, the Bible says, moving from the Old Testament to the New Testament, I will no longer give you occasion to use this proverb, that the fathers have eaten sour grapes and set the children's teeth on edge. Instead, each of us have the opportunity to make choice for ourselves whether to serve the Lord or not to serve the Lord. By the way, Ben mentioned going to Israel with us. We're going to be leaving. Our tour group leaves on October the 27th. However, we have another one coming up. Maybe you missed this one, but there's another one coming up April the 30th, and this tour group is going to be 2 countries, Israel and Italy, Israel and Rome. The city of Jerusalem and the city of Rome, the 2 most prophesied cities in the entire Bible. Jana is over our tours, and she could probably talk a long time about it, but just briefly, if people want to get involved, tell them real quick, Jana.
Our tours are a trip of a lifetime. We've created a boutique tour that if a person can only go to Israel one time in their life, we've tried to make it the best that you could go. So I'm a little biased, but I do feel like that we've done that, and everyone that we talk to, a lot of people that go on our trips say these things to us, so I sort of know from the feedback, but it's just great, and we're going to be going to a 14-day trip. You can call our 1-800-ENDTIME number and ask to get a brochure. We have those already in-house, and you can also go online. We have a tour banner. Click on it and ask for more information. There's also a PDF link there that you can get a copy of the current tour brochure for the spring.
So we have a boutique tour.
I call it a boutique tour because
I didn't know I was leading a boutique tour.
Well, a lot of people have 1,500. You're one of many. We have 70 to 90. So you get to know each other. You get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with the End Time team. And so it's just, I call it a boutique tour.
In case you're interested, what we do on our tour, we have eliminated a lot of the tourist traps. I mean, there's places where they'll tell you Jesus stubbed his toe here and ridiculous things that nobody knows. but they put together some of these things. But since I've been leading tours since 1993, every single year, we've eliminated those things that are non-consequential, and we have found new things that are just amazing. Anyway, it's the tour of a lifetime. The difference between End Times Tour and all other tours is ours is a prophecy tour. So you get the history, what Jesus did, what his disciples did, what the prophets did. You get all that, plus then you get the other half. You get what's going to happen in the near future. So if you ever want to go to Israel, to the Holy Land, and believe me, you do want to go, even if you don't think you do, you go, you'll find out, you'll want to go back. Anyway, if you're interested, give us a call. 800 End Time is the number to call. Just ask for information about the tour. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some of you, we're going to be leaving you on hold because we have run out of time, but I do want to tell everyone listening today one more time, we're calling it the miracle called End Time, because it is a miracle, and you're going to hear more miracles tomorrow. Things that God did. We've had our backs to the wall when we didn't know how we were going to pay the bills. We didn't know how we were going to get done what God had called us to do, and we've had such incredible supernatural intervention. It's just amazing. And we'll tell you more about that on the program, the next program that's coming up. But I want to tell you, though, since we're celebrating 30 years of End Time Ministries, we want to offer you something. Many of you have thought about becoming a partner with End Time. You haven't done it yet. Well, this is the time to do it. If you will become a partner for $30 or more per month, we have this special documentary which tells you the very interesting inside of how we produced the Understanding the End Time series. And I was fascinated. Our staff put this together, but they did a wonderful job. Anyway, this is not we're not charging $30 for this. This is just a gift of appreciation for all of you that would become a partner for $30 or more per month. Or if you're already a partner, up your partnership, $30 a month, and we'll send this right out to you. Well, I just slid over this real quickly, but I shouldn't have, because I think you have to read this article on globalism. And I apologize because I am the writer of it, but I wrote it a month or two ago, and I read it the other day, actually yesterday, and I thought, oh my goodness, look at this stuff that's in here. I'd forgotten what all we put in there. Anyway, before you vote for president on November the 8th, you gotta read this article on globalism. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the living room, in your living room, I might say. So if you'd like to subscribe, the number to call is 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. And also to become a partner, same number. Now, don't miss it. We're going to be right back here with you tomorrow. God bless you all. See you then.
End of the Age is a production of End Time Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. End Time Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.